Hello and welcome to Between Two Peers, a live stream show where the hosts invite a guest, or guests in this case, from around the known world to answer your pressing questions about life, the universe, and everything. This week is sponsored by Pim's Cups, because the ridiculously sexy Sir Sean of the Chippendales introduced them to Giles one hot and sticky afternoon in New Orleans. And Gin and Tonic, which is fighting malaria one glass at a time. I am one half of your fabulous hosting duo, Tulia Alori, aka Sassy Seamstress, sassy if we're really good friends. I am a Laurel from the West Kingdom, and I've been in the SCA for a long freaking time. Not as long as many, but longer than others. So somewhere in the middle, I guess. Okay, 28 years. That's about as long as I got. So with that, I am going to roll right into handing this over to my delightful co-host, Sir Danger Muppet.
Hi, I'm Sir Danger Muppet, otherwise known as Sir Helga from the West Kingdom. I've been friends with Sassy for God knows how long at this point in time. I am a knight, a pelican, a royal peer, and I just got a new drink delivered because I'm not drinking out of a flower pot. And so I've been in the SCA for over half my life, and I like dogs. So with that, tonight, our lovely guests are Giles, Master Grumpy Cat, and Giuseppe, High Priest of Snark. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Giles Hill. I've been in the SCA for 41 years, which I think may give me seniority in this group. I found the SCA in San Diego about 2 weeks before I moved to Lubbock, Texas to start college. I founded what is now the Barony of Bonwicke when I was in college, moved back to San Diego, the Barony of Calafia, and then I moved up north to Gyldenholt in, good Lord, 1990, no, that's not right, 80, sometime, where I've lived ever since. I have held any number of roles during my time in the SCA. I've been Seneschal and a Herald and Minister of Arts and Sciences and a Landed Baron and a buttload of court positions and run a bunch of events. And I used to teach dance.
Fair enough. And I am Giuseppe de Borgia, and I've been in the SCA for about, 30 years. So also over half my life. So yay. I began in the Kingdom of Trimaris, where I was laureled there for costuming, dance, and embroidery, and also was a landed noble with my ex-wife. And lo and behold, this one came into my life, and well, things changed. We'll just put it that way. So I came to Caid, where I have enjoyed, again, many different types of offices, lots of different types of events. The two of us sat together as landed nobles here in the Barony of Gyldenholt. And also we were both fortunate enough to get our pelicans here too. So we've been busy, we've been having fun, and have no intention of stopping that anytime soon.
Nice. Well, welcome to the show. I'm going to remind everybody of the drinking game. Please feel free to drink along and or not. But we encourage it. So the drinking game. When a host or one of the guests uses a non-SCA name when referring to somebody else on the show. When somebody says, before I was a peer, in my kingdom, or when I last reigned, and we are counting your guys' baronial reign for this rule.
Oh, for sure.
When somebody calls for a soapbox or uses a soapbox, because really we get called on that one much more by our amazing audience than we call ourselves on it. And when somebody mentions or uses the term spite sprinkles. And with that, we'll roll right into the show.
All right, so our first question is specifically to Giles and Giuseppe. And it's from Henriette de Saint-Denis. I'm going to just Frenchify that because I don't know, I have to. They ask what their greatest concerns were coming into the position of the first same-gendered landed nobility in the known world. Were your concerns allayed by the time you stepped down, or were the things you needn't have been concerned about in the first place? Or were they things that you needn't have been concerned about in the first place?
Oh, well, he's fiddling with the sound. I'll take that. First of all, hello, Henriette. Love you, miss you, and always think of you whenever I'm making bacon. Sitting together as the first same-gender landed nobility, at least for me, was at first absolutely terrifying. And despite the fact that I had done that or should I rephrase it as the first time I was a landed noble.
Everybody drink.
Yeah. I didn't really have a particularly pleasant time. We'll put it that way. The barony that I was in was not particularly cohesive. We were young. There were a lot of different groups, a lot of different personalities, and we had that new thing that came into being called the internet. And all the things that go with social media hit us all at the same time. So I was not wanting to do this ever again, and I was convinced of that. But when Giles and I got together, I realized that it wasn't just about like the issues that I had had in my time. It was also about the ones that he had had, because he had worked a ton with different baronies in different kingdoms and groups.
Hang on, sorry, that's me.
Not us. He had found groups, he had helped to run offices, he had helped to run events, and never got the opportunity to be a baron because, well, he didn't have a woman to sit with.
Ah, got it.
And that sucked. That really sucked. So it was like, okay, I have my own issues, but he has his, and those are just as valuable. So we did it. And for me, really, there was kind of like a lot of personal pressure in doing this, because it wasn't a matter of, okay, we'll do this just like everyone else has done it. I figured there's going to be a lot of people looking at every single move we do, and that was something that I was very keenly aware of the whole time, and it made me kind of neurotic. So I figured if we made a mistake, just like anybody else would make, if people were looking to cause trouble, they would say, aha, that's because there are two men sitting together. So I was like, let's do everything we can to not let that happen. And in the long run, it was the most magical experience, was. It's fantastic. Our group was so good. The kingdom was so supportive. People were supportive all over the place, and it was a delight. What would you say?
Just so I'm clear, the question is, what were our biggest concerns before we became landed?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any, quite frankly. We've both been doing this since shortly after rocks hardened. We both held any number of offices. We've run events. We've been in leadership roles for decades. And quite frankly, being a landed baron or baroness just uses all those skills which we both already had. So I wasn't terribly worried about that. My only concern going in was wardrobe. I only wear Elizabethan clothes. I've only worn Elizabethan clothes for 40 years. And Giuseppe's priority was that we looked like we dressed out of the same town in the same year for every event. So I was not looking forward to making a bunch of clothes that I would never wear again, but I did, and it was fine. And we had an absolute blast. I enjoyed it tremendously, and I never need to do it again.
I thought you looked fabulous. I mean,
Thank you.
You rocked the 15th century pretty hard, so good for you.
Agreed. All right, we ready? Are we ready for the next question?
Oh, there's one thing I want to add here. Any number of people came up and told us confidentially, sub rosa, that if we had any problems, they would be happy to be our champions, and they would fight anybody who gave us grief, and they would defend us, and they were just raring for someone to express opposition. And we never had any.
Especially knights. And I got to throw that in. There were, and I can't even remember how many members of the Order of Chivalry would do the, can I talk to you privately? And, always thought, oh my God, what are we going to get lectured for? And it was always the same thing. It was like, anybody gives you any trouble, you let me know, I will take care of it. It was overwhelming. So a lot of kudos to the Order of Chivalry for their behavior and their support.
That's awesome.
You guys seem to have had a lot of support, and that was really cool to see. I mean, it's stressful enough, I think, just being a territorial seat, whether it's a barony, principality, or crown. And to be the first, though, in a thing that was pretty hotly contested throughout the known world, you guys kicked ass. So go you. Set a great example. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right. So the next question comes from Meg. What is the one project you want to do, but it scares the crap out of you?
You take that one first.
Well, the only projects that I want to do are the ones I know I'll be able to do perfectly the first time. So, not much. But really, I've made all the clothes, I've danced all the dances. I don't really know that I have a whole lot of projects left in me.
I'll come up with a honey-do list for you. For me, gosh, I actually do have quite a few of those. Because one of the things I've gotten into in more recent times is more along the lines of metalwork and enamel work. And I really feel like I've only just started to play with that a little bit. So there's a lot of projects that I'm like, ooh, that looks really cool, but I'm just not sure if I could do it yet. I don't know anything about repoussé. That whole, bending metal thing kind of scares me. So, it's probably the next direction I'm going to go in, but at the moment I'm still in the fear phase.
I hope I didn't sound too jaded there. Did I sound jaded?
It's okay. We'll get to the more jaded questions later.
Oh, yeah. It's okay to sound jaded. The show embraces the jaded. I think right now every project scares me. I mean, I know how to do it, and I have a pile of half-made garments or garments that just really need, a couple of things, and I could be finished with them in like a weekend or a day or whatever. And right now it's just it's overcoming inertia. And so everything seems super intimidating, no matter how whether or not it's technically difficult for me or not. I guess if we were going to talk about like pie in the sky stuff, like, stuff that I haven't ever attempted, but intimidates me kind of in principle. If we're going to limit it to the scope of the SCA time period, it would be, houplons, actually. Houplons have always kind of intimidated me. And, I've never really felt like I needed to make one, but I haven't made one. And I kind of try to make like at least one of something just to see, what it's like. But yeah, houplons are real. They require a lot of like kind of geometry that I inherently can kind of, feel my way through. But I think you need to be a little bit more precise about it. So. Thank you. And now I have a cocktail again. So
you know what they require? Not just geometry, room.
Yeah, exactly.
Room to deal with that.
Yeah. When you get,
unless you've got like a 12-foot dining room table or something like that with nothing on it, which let's face it, we're FCA. If there's a blank space, it's going to have stuff on it. Exactly. You need to have that. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Exactly. And that's exactly the thing too. Yeah, you're limited by space. And I mean, I'm short, so I could probably get away with like a smaller space to actually have to cut it out. But having to do anything that's like a full circle, and then having to like hem things on the bias, like no. And then sew in velvet, like, yeah, all of this sounds really, really intimidating because it means a lot of really persnickety, fiddly hand sewing and basting and whatnot to make sure that everything hangs properly. And then you can't stop it from growing once it's been hanging in a closet. So you've got to store it somewhere flat. I'm overthinking it already. So Helga.
It's what you do. But on the other hand, if you don't overthink it, it's not going to happen.
It's true. Yeah.
Sure. So on the overthinking part, what project do I want to do, but it scares the crap out of me? The research paper on the transitional 14th to 15th century shield that I'm doing right now, that research paper scares the dog shit out of me. I write for a living basically at this point in my life, and I do legal work. And so I'm like, it needs exhibits and it needs this and like it needs this period reference and like here's how I'm going to compare and contrast the materials that I've used versus like what would have been used in period. And I'm like, this is a fucking book. This is writing a book. And I'm like, I should be able to bullshit, like write this in 3 to 4 pages like a college paper, where I'm like, I'm just going to gloss over some of this and like be like, I used acrylics because I really don't feel like sticking heavy metals in my mouth because I chew on my brushes. And so like the project that scares me the most right now is also being wrong in that. Is I actually have a little bit of stage fright about research. And I tend to shut up about research because it's changing so rapidly. We're learning so much more, especially with with advances in technology, that I worry that I'm going to write it and then it's going to be obsolete like that. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to write it wrong. And I totally want to be like, here's this art thing that I poured my heart and soul into. And then I tried to figure out how to do the documentation and I fucked that up. So I just do the art thing. And then I just like fear myself out of documentation. And I'm like, here, I've made a pretty thing for you. Pew, pew. Not doing research on that, even though I did hours of research on it to make sure that it's all laid out right. But I'm not going to tell you that. So, yeah.
Helga, so here's my laurelly advice, whether you like it or not. Write as much as you need to write, and then have a trusted friend who knows some stuff about research papers and how they're actually approached in the SCA. Have that person help you edit it down to something that's a little more digestible for like a competition or something like that. The other thing you can do, make a website, put all your research there, and you do it in chunks. Like right now I'm really geeking on this one little thing, and I'm going to write a lot about this one little thing that pertains to a larger thing, but this is my one thing I'm really excited about. And then you move on to the next thing, and it kind of just builds in pieces together, and it's much more digestible. And
yeah, I think it's the fear of like there's just so much that needs to be done. And like I also understand that like once I get like some of the base stuff done, it's like cut and paste for the rest of my shields. Like I use this material, they would have used this in period. I can then cut and paste that document into my next round of documentation. Be like, believe me, Laurels, you've read this like 7 fucking times. Like now here we're gonna get down to the design work on the shield. And I need to get over that hump. I almost need my like little hand held a little bit to be like,
your hand.
Little like
I'll hold your little paw. I'll hold your toe beans. I won't touch them too much.
I think it's a really important point that you bring up about the fear that a lot of artists feel when they're trying to present information, and what if I screw up, I'm going to make a fool out of myself. I always tell people it's really important to take that leap of faith and just say you might be wrong. Suck it up and accept it, because people do make mistakes and sometimes it happens. I think of, for instance, there was, many moons ago, there was a dance manuscript that was discovered, like in the late 80s, and it's called the Wrestling Manuscript. And that was something that, in the SCA, it was like, oh my God, new old dances, yay. And I had gotten in touch with the guy that actually found it in England, and he sent me a copy, and we were talking. This is before any of the stuff was published. And I think I was the first person in the SCA to write an article about it and, kind of introduce some of these dances out there. And there were a couple of dance moves that I'm like, oh, well, clearly this must be blah, blah, blah. And I believe I was absolutely wrong. And the problem is every now and then, like I'll go to another kingdom or something, take a class, and someone is teaching one of these particular dances, and they're using the wrong move that I taught in the first place. And, I politely go, I appreciate that. I have the feeling I know where you got this, and it's probably wrong. And it's like, well, I got this from research from, years and years ago. And I'm like, yeah, I wrote that, and I was wrong. And now I'm trying to fix this wherever I go. Mm-hmm. But at least it got out there.
And yeah. That's the thing. That's the nature of academic discourse is, you have an idea and you're probably, this has happened to me many times where I come across something and I'm like, oh my God, nobody's ever thought about this thing. And so I have to go find that, down that rabbit hole, do the experimental archaeology to find out if this technique works, makes sense. I put it on my website. I make all sorts of, adjustments to it, but it's out there. And then it's even worse when it actually gets published, because then it's really kind of cemented. And then it becomes something that someone else can attack academically, which is, honestly, I really enjoy that process, because I welcome that. I welcome someone saying to me, you overlooked points, sure, you got like points A, B, and C, but you overlooked like A1 through C2. So I become smarter about and more understanding about something because somebody else was able to take my research and take it one step further or 50 steps further, maybe even prove me wrong. But you know what? Great. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That doesn't mean that at that time I thought that, you know, I wasn't going to be proved wrong, or this is not something that has to, you know, that I'm not infallible, basically. I know that I am, and I welcome that, actually, and I'm comfortable with that. And but it's hard. It's actually a hard place to get to be okay with being part of the discourse and perhaps attacked or refuted, in maybe not nice ways. But I think everybody comes out better at the end, you know, because of that.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, we want to do the next.
Let's do the next one, because this is actually one of my favorite questions so far.
Okay, so this is from His Royal Majesty Alberic from the East Kingdom. What do you like best about your kingdom?
Well, you've been here longer. Why don't you take that one?
So this is a topic that Giuseppe and I disagree on.
Uh-oh, did they freeze?
Oh no!
No, it's frozen. I really need to know this.
I need to know this super bad too.
Okay, got it.
Was that
Okay, you guys are good.
Okay,
We were all on the edge of our seat.
I'm sorry. I need to be on the edge of my seat for this.
I am actually on the edge of my seat.
All right. So Ansteorra, like many of the kingdoms that descend in the line of Akenville, has what's called a dead king transition. Monarchs do not crown their successors. They take the crown off, leave it somewhere, wander off, and the next set of monarchs come in and claim the crown. So that's what I was used to. And sometimes it was this amazing, dramatic, choreographed spectacle of an entire court deciding they were going to go on crusades and taking the cross and divesting themselves of secular office and you know, leaving for the Holy Land. And sometimes it was incredibly hokey, like my friend Bob is going to kill the king, and we're all going to sit calmly in our chairs and watch. But it was all I knew, so I thought nothing of it. So moving to Caid, I went to a coronation, and it was very smooth and very scripted, and everyone spoke eloquently, most of the time reading from something, but it just moved very smooth. And I thought, well, that was really cool. Good job, Caid. And then 6 months later, there was another coronation, and everyone said exactly the same thing and stood at the same place and handed the same things off. And it was just like church. And I thought, wow, that is so incredibly cool. So being the liturgy geek that I am, I really like that about Caid. The having a set ceremony, everyone knows what you're supposed to do. We've done it before. We do a good job at it. Let's do it again.
Well, needless to say, I don't agree with that one. I like being able to go to a coronation or an event and basically have a new experience, not know what I'm going to see, not know what the show is going to be, as opposed to, oh, this sounds exactly like last time. Personal preference. Well, I also would have to say one of the things I really love about Caid actually does work along the lines of tradition, but embracing change. Our kingdom is not one to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's a matter of it's working. Let's not mess with it. But if there is another way, I'm not willing to change it yet, but I'm willing to let you convince me that it's better. And I found that really is a cultural thing within Caid, that it's like we really do want to hold on to what's working. But if you do have a better method, we're willing to talk about it and listen. It's very grown up. And it's something that I don't really see as much in other kingdoms as what I've seen here. And it's been kind of refreshing. It's like, well, there is room for improvement. There is room for new ideas. There is some room for change, but there's ultimate respect for tradition. And I absolutely love that about this kingdom. It's really wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
One thing I love about the West. There's a lot. I mean, you guys have all heard me rant enough about like shit that I would want to change in the West. one of my favorite things is that the same oath is used for each peerage. And so everybody knows it. And when you are made a knight, a pelican, a laurel, a mod, those other members are up there present. And if you look around, they are speaking the oath with you. So every time a peer is made, everybody is reaffirming their oath. Everybody is touching the candidate in some way, and you have all the knights, you have all the laurels, you have all the pelicans, you have all the mods saying this oath. And typically it's done under their breath. It's not like this huge ruckus chant, but I have been in the place of receiving a peerage and hearing it behind me in the soft whispers and echoes of, like, especially when I was knighted, it was a powerful thing. And I have been, when I reigned, I got to see it standing there and watching them. And it was just as powerful, because that is all the peers reaffirming that oath to the new peer and you at the same time. And it's one of the coolest, like, unspoken things that happen, because nobody tells you this happens. And once you're in the middle of it, it is like, oh no, this should continue.
Yeah, I think, like, the coolest thing, I'm gonna have to say, like, actually the unbroken line of kings. And I think that that's a really cool thing about the West, since, you know, First Kingdom has had an unbroken line for 55 years, 56 years, actually, technically, I think, that, you know, the crown passes from, you know, one head to head. And I think, even though there is a lot of sort of, I guess, you know, Giles said it really well, it's scripted liturgy, but I also find that really actually interesting and really affirming, to know that so far, in over half a century, that crown has never failed to be placed on the head of the successor king by the outgoing king and the queen as well, you know. So that is a really kind of cool tradition, I think. You know, not to say other kingdoms that do it differently, they don't have, you know, their own cool tradition, because that is actually a really cool bit of theater to be like, you know, have the assassination or something. And that's a fun thing that you get to play with, and it's a lot more, you know, it is a lot more theatrical. It's probably a lot more entertaining for the audience to see, like, whatever new way is gonna, you know, how is the king gonna go out, or king and queen are gonna leave, and how's the new king and queen gonna come in, and so that's kind of, I bet that's a lot of fun. It's been tried, I think, like, once here in the West. And that was my boyfriend Thorfinn, actually. Everybody can drink. Yes, we'll drink for that. That was an old rule we got rid of because people were being kind of mean about it. But when he was Prince of the Mists, he got assassinated. But he survived long enough to place the coronet on his successor's head. So the line remains unbroken. But I always thought that was fun. I thought that was kind of a fun, like, theatrical, you know, cool way to just break it up a bit and, like, shock people, and because everyone's expecting the same thing. Everyone's going to be sitting there mouthing the Lord's Prayer together, you know, kind of a thing. And then suddenly the prince is, you know, stabbed in the middle of court. Like, what do you do with that? And yeah, I think that that's pretty fun. But overall,
Lee, I would like to comment on something that you said, that you sit there and you watch the show. I think the essential difference between the two models, the dead king transition versus the monarchs crowning their successor model, is in many ways similar to the difference between the SCA and the Renaissance fairs.
yeah.
The SCA is participatory history. When someone's getting an award, they're getting an award because they have earned it. They're not playing someone getting an award. And the monarch is not playing someone giving an award. They're really giving it. It's real.
Yeah.
And when we crown our monarchs, we're not in a play. We really are crowning our monarchs.
Yeah.
But if I sit and watch my liege be murdered and do nothing, what does that say about me? I'm not here to watch a show. I'm here to be a different person.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Solid point.
And peacefully watching steel be drawn or arrows be shot and not reacting is not real.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, to be screaming and running for the door.
Really
you
good
have
point.
me convinced.
Yeah, and I didn't actually think about it in that way, because you're right though, in the sense that like the Renaissance Fair, you're right, it's a theatrical production for the entertainment of an audience, and they approach it very much from that stage, on the stage versus off the stage mentality. And so you can have high drama, but you don't have consequences with like the people in the audience. They're just there to be entertained. Where in the SCA, it's visceral. It is a really visceral thing. And, wow, that was some real wisdom right there.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
All right, are we ready for the next question?
Yeah, let's do the next question.
Okay, the next question is the question of the evening. Then we get sassy after this one. This one comes from Ghislaine. It is reworded a little bit so all four of us can answer it. Ghislaine asks,
Can we keep the volume up a little bit? I'm having trouble hearing.
Sorry, let me scoot closer to my mic instead of lounging back like an asshole. Can you hear me better now?
A little bit.
How about now?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
All right, cool. I turned my mic up, so here I'll actually turn it up a little bit again. So I'm mealy mouth, so my apologies. Ghislaine asks, when you first started, what was the inclusivity landscape like in the SCA that you observed, and how was it for you personally? The follow-up to this is, as of today, do you feel that that landscape has improved in the way you hoped it would, or is it still lacking?
Wow. You want me to take that? I can start it. Let's see. When I started, that's a really hard question, because I was straight when I started and I'm not now. At least in my mind, I know everyone I know is like, oh, please, but at least in my mind, that's the way it worked. When I started, of course, started in Trimaris, which is Florida. Contrary to popular belief, that really is part of the South. It is part of the Bible Belt.
Baby then just nodding vigorously in the back.
Yeah. And Trimaris's culture is, well, it's fair to say Trimaris culture is unique. It is absolutely unique. And the good old boys society and culture was very much there. It's still very much there in a lot of ways, but it was very, very much there then. And there wasn't really a lot of diversity. I mean, which is weird, because the premier pelican of the kingdom, who's gay, had been out since he was pelican back in the 70s when Trimaris was still part of Apenbelt. And it was almost like, yeah, there was him. And well, yeah, that's the one that's our symbol. That's the one, we'll tolerate that one, not really many others. So, the gay thing was kind of downplayed. You did not see a lot of people of color. And at the time, again, this is 1989. Everyone was still thinking, okay, we're going to die of nuclear war any second. We don't have time to deal with this kind of stuff. But I didn't really see much diversity at all. And being a white guy, it didn't even occur to me. Honestly, it just didn't occur to me. The big issues of the time were whether it was appropriate for women to fight or not. And, that was still going on. So going from then to now, I mean, I'm still waking up to a lot of things. There's a lot of issues I didn't know existed because I didn't know. I didn't see them. There was no way for me to know about them. And even when I asked, there were people that just weren't really wanting to talk about them, because it's like, why is this guy talking? Why is he asking? Is it a trick question? Let's just say everything's fine. So I'm learning more every day, and I feel like it's getting better, but I feel like we have a lot of painful growing pains to go through in the SCA, and I mean, every one of us, and that includes recognizing the fact that, hey, I may not have been as good an ally as I would have liked all this time, because there's things I may just never been aware of. So you got to be ready to be educated, I think. I don't know, what do you think then?
Well, being a white male like Giuseppe, I think
He's
that I
whiter
was
though.
probably blind to a lot of issues that were going on that I just wasn't aware of at the time because I didn't think to look for them. Just as a fish doesn't think to look at the water in which they swim, it's just the environment in which you exist, and it's neither good nor bad, it's simply there. But over the course of years, I have become aware that there were issues even when I first joined. I found out years after I had left Ansteorra that had I had a girlfriend or a wife, Bonwicke would have been made a barony before I left, and I would have been the founding baron. And I still harbor some bitterness and resentment about that. And
Is this a soapbox? This is technically a soapbox.
No, not really.
I can share it.
I may have a soapbox coming up, but I don't have one right now. I have tried to let that experience enlighten my interactions with other people because I'm not interested in just being an ally. I don't want to, encourage people to do what they want to do and wish them luck. I want to be an accomplice. I want to actively collude with people to improve our society and our culture. And I think in a lot of ways that involves my sitting down and shutting up and listening. So that's what I have to say about that. And you don't need to say anything about that.
No, it's gonna work.
All right. So when I first started, I started in the 90s, early 90s, which though that was 28 years ago.
You started when you were 5.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I was 5. I was a very precocious 5-year-old. I was young enough though. I really was young enough that I felt like the SCA kind of raised me, or I grew up in it. I'm not a generational, I wasn't born in the SCA, but I came to it early enough in my development that it shaped very, very significant things about my personality. And one of the things that was cool about it, because I was in this very liberal area of the United States, Northern California, was that the SCA was very much a very openly permissive kind of, at least the SCA as I knew it, in my kingdom, was pretty permissive, pretty liberal, pretty, one of the earliest things I remember somebody teaching me was the Wiccan sort of, what is it, like what is the do unto others thing? Oh, the golden rule, the Wiccan golden rule, which was do as thou wilt and harm none. Like whatever you wanted to do, as long as it was cool with the other person that you were doing it with, like cool, and it provided everybody was a legal consenting age. But it didn't matter, like I never felt like I saw any real discrimination based on sexual orientation. I now, as I'm older and I can look back and I can see like, okay, like there were these very undercurrents of homophobia, undercurrents of racism, undercurrents of misogyny that I didn't really pick up on because, when you're in that culture, when you're like actively in that culture and you're a teenager, 15 years old, you don't really have a lot of experience to draw on. So you just kind of take things at face value and you're like, well, it's not hurting me or anybody I know, so it must be okay. And that's not necessarily the truth. And I learned this many, many years later as I grew up and I matured and I started becoming more self-aware and I started becoming more aware around, about, cultural blind spots and so on. But I will say, like, I always still say that like the West Kingdom has generally been pretty easygoing. And I don't like, I feel maybe I'm a bad person to talk really extensively about this. But I do think that there were like major areas that needed needed improvement. And I think that they're getting improved now. I do feel safer as a woman in the SCA now than when I started. Again, I was a child when I started, but and now I'm an adult and I don't take anybody's shit. So I'm better about policing my own consent and my own, personal autonomy than I would have been when I was 15. But, I still think it's actually a better place. I think it's actually safer for a young woman now than it was when I was, a young kid in the SCA almost 30 years ago. And now I'm looking at Helga over here, like dying for some reason. Am I funny? What is happening?
My friends are assholes is what's going on.
Okay.
They have set up chairs right next to me over here, and they all have their drinks. We're watching the show.
Well, with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
So I'm super sorry that I was like laughing in the middle of like one of the most serious questions we've actually dropped. Fuckers. I lost the steadfast game. Like hardcore just lost that game. So this question
actually believe you were going to win that one?
Yeah, I've actually won that one multiple times because people try to fuck with me at home all the time during the show, and I'm just like, no. But these fuckers, they're literally sitting with their like little eyes over the top of the chairs, like. I love them and I hate them. So to answer this question, I'm actually gonna say that Tulia's answer filled a lot of like that first section of when I came into the SCA. I was already indoctrinated into some of the really bad behaviors. I grew up in a very small, very redneck town, very sexist. And then I survived in the boys' world and like the boys' club. And so I was indoctrinated into those behaviors already. So I missed them. And I missed them in myself. And so the inclusivity landscape when I started in the SCA, I think lacked a lot of people of color. We lacked a lot of female fighters on the field. And so there's those things that were very easy to see, but the underlying currents that was keeping them out, I was already like totally blind to. And so that was a problem. And so what I'm going to say is today is I'm actually much more aware of what's going on. That's actually affecting who's on the field. Why we don't have certain brackets of culture actually, in the SCA right now. And so today I think the landscape is much better because we are deprogramming years of shitty behavior, which sucks. Because we're having to face a lot of challenges about it right now within the SCA, very openly and very honestly, where we're doing soul searching and we're calling all our friends on their bullshit. And that's the hardest part is we're having to address our peers and our heroes saying, I'm sorry, you're actually coming from a place of privilege. You're coming from a place where you haven't seen that you're actually indoctrinated with these behaviors and these behaviors benefit you. And that's the hardest part. And so what I'm going to say is that it is continuing to improve, and we still have to improve. We have to improve so you don't have to be bold as brass like me to just be like, yep, I'm buying poly. If you want to stand in my way, go fuck yourself. I'll kick your ass. We should be able to have the people that are shy and be able to do that and feel safe and open and honest. We should have our people of color and our indigenous people and hell, like we're in California. Why do we not have a heavy duty Mexican population playing in the SCA? Until we have that, the work is not done. Until we've beaten some of the ingrained sexism, that work is not done. And we're still lacking some of those conversations. We are growing by leaps and bounds. I am super proud of our peers. I'm super proud of our leaders. I'm proud of our officers, and I'm proud of our populace for everything they're doing right now. There's still a lot to be done so we can be a truly inclusive society where people feel safe, welcome, and like they can be their geeky, weird selves, and we can talk about costuming or fighting or like equestrian, whatever. I don't care. Get your geek on in the SCA. I just don't want it to be a narrow band. And so I'm going to continue to work to call myself on my bullshit and all my friends on their bullshit so we can be better.
That's good. Yeah. There's always room for improvement.
Always. The work is never done. We're going to find the next thing when this one's over.
Yeah.
So, all right. Are we ready for the next question?
I think.
Okay, so this one's super serious. Like, I'm sorry. Oh, it's totally yours too. I was about to jump you.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's okay. I've got a bug that's like right in front of me, and I'm just basically like a little gnat or something. Ugh. All right, so this one is from Caitlin Reese. If you were a video game character, what loot would you drop when you die?
Like you start that one.
The only video game I play is Solitaire. But I think I can answer the second half of the question, which is the one who dies with the most cloth wins.
It's gonna be you and me, baby.
I would have to say, because I'm a little bit more modern than Giles, I'm totally Pac-Man, because that's the last video game I played, and I don't believe that whoever dies with the most fabric wins. I think whoever dies with the most fabric, screw them, they're dead. Where's the yard sale?
Yeah, that's pretty much. I cannot wait to see like the insanity that's going to happen when I die and everybody descends on my fabric stash, which, by the way, is extensive and mostly silk. So I'm just saying, maybe I'll earmark some things for you guys. I'll give a couple of people first dibs, and then it's going to be like a piranha feeding experience. I guess I have to answer that. No, wait, no. Helga, you answer.
Oh yeah. So, what am I gonna What items am I gonna drop? Well, there's gonna be a pocket knife involved because I'm pretty much always have a pocket knife. There's probably gonna be a wad of horsehair. There's gonna be strange coins from around the known world because I gamble a lot within the SCA, so I can win coins from wherever I'm traveling, and I kind of keep them because it's a weird stash. So somebody's gonna get a solid coin purse when I die. Just so you know. And then there's probably gonna be random bits of armor. You're gonna get the almost epic armor drop. It's when it's just the heroic level, not the epic level armor drop, because I've got that Dongal helmet that I'm pretty sure that's gonna be on my dead body. Fight over that shit because it's fucking amazing. So and then there's probably gonna be a love note on there from Hans because he's sappy like that.
Oh, that's sweet.
So you're gonna get money, character building, and armor out of my drop.
I think
I do want to take a moment and make a suggestion, though, because the thought of dying and leaving loot behind does have, I think, some real-world application. Giuseppe and I have a buttload of books. We've both been buying books for decades, and we've spent a fair amount of money on books, and many of them are out of print, and many of them are hard to find, and many of them are incredibly micro-focused on some subdivisional sliver of lore or knowledge. When we die, what's going to happen to those books? I think what the SCA needs to do is establish a library in Kansas or Missouri or some other square state where land and buildings are cheap, and start a library. And it can be a lending library, and it can be a digitizing library that makes this research material available to people either online, or they can arrange to borrow a book or get a photographic reprint. But it would be criminal for those of us who have amassed significant libraries over the course of decades, for those to be frittered away and dispersed. I think the SCA needs a library.
And in particular, along those lines, I'm sure we all go through this. The biggest fear that a lot of us have is, let's say, we get killed in a car crash tomorrow, and our relatives have to deal with our SCA stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm terrified of thinking of some of the things that could end up, wherever, handed off to make collage or something, because, it's not, the books are the main thing, because there are a lot of things that are absolutely out of print, and because, world history is what it is. I can think of some particular research books from the early part of the 20th century, even though they're those, either black and white prints or whatever they called them, where they had a color print that they had to glue onto the page. Sometimes those are the best that we have, because lo and behold, World War II came along, a lot of things were completely destroyed. A lot of items are gone, lost, destroyed, whatever. And the only research we have is that book from 1903, which has been out of print for a long time. Good luck if you can ever get a copy. And, no one outside of the SCA is going to look at that book that's falling apart and think, oh, this is of any value. It might end up in the trash. And that thought terrifies me, because I know that that was the most valuable thing for my research rabbit hole on, looking at the way the bases of pottery shards were formed in the 1430s as opposed to the 1445s, that kind of a thing. So we've thought about this a lot and bantered about it, and we're not qualified to do that. Neither of us are research librarian, professional Library of Congress types, but I'm hoping someone out there is and would go, oh my God, this could be my life's goal. Ease.
That is awesome. Any librarians out there, take note and file that one away. Might actually be a really good idea. I mean, I'm going to go as far as to say it probably actually is a very good idea. So, okay, so if I died in a video game and I was a video game character, what loot would I drop? It would just be like random balls of hair, bobby pins, and yeah, it would be like I shed a lot and bobby pins, and in fact, my boyfriend comes to me the other day with a bobby pin in his hand, and he's looking at me and he's just like, are these only single use? I'm like, you were raised with 7 sisters. Are you fucking with me, or is this a genuine question? And he's like, it's a genuine question, because every girl I've ever known, like, I just find bobby pins strewn everywhere, and like, I just wonder, are they just like a single use thing, or can you reuse them? Like, they're supposed to be reusable, right? That and then it goes back to this meme that I had years ago I came across, which was like, bobby pins are how a girl marks her territory. So you just find random bobby pins just.
When we can do events again, we're following her around and dropping bobby pins everywhere. Everywhere, and that's like Tulia largesse.
Yeah, right, exactly. Here is your bobby pins, and madam, and the gentle, and there you are. Yeah, exactly. I would just be handfuls everywhere I go, just throwing them everywhere. Yeah. I don't know, man. They're things that just come flying out of your hair, and then you pull it out and you put it on a desk, and it just scoots off into the ether, and suddenly you're trying to vacuum, and then there's like 40 of them all just kind of strewn about in random locations. So yeah, I'd probably just drop bobby pins. I think that's actually my serious answer.
It's like one of those boss things when you off the boss in a video game and they like turn into something, so they're like the drop of the mist, or like they explode or something like that. Like Tulia goes and she just explodes into bobby pins.
Exactly. It'll just be like poof, skitters.
I assume this happens to you both equally.
Yeah. So I see my Laurel actually commented, Juana Isabella de Montoya y Ramirez, who also, by the way, says hi, gentlemen. She says, you are battling the great bobby pin hair bobby pin shortage, which is a joke from my other life as a costume historian with movies. So yeah, because nobody ever puts their hair up in historical movies. Bastards. I'm in undress, so my hair gets to be down, because I'm actually in my underwear, so my hair can be down. So there you go. That's my technicality, and I'm
scandalized.
Oh, you should be. So, want to move on to the next question?
Yep. So the next question is from me, by me. So, I asked, how can a student best approach you about training or training/teaching, or a conversation about some of the aspects of being a peer?
My feeling has always been that if you want to learn something, just ask. There are few things that I like more than showing somebody how to do a cool thing that will save them hours of endless frustration. So I guess that's all I have to say. Just if you're interested in something that I can teach you, just ask. I would be thrilled to share whatever it is that you're interested in.
I think that really is the belief of most peers out there, because let's face it, at the core, no matter how intimidating people may look, or how much you might have, hero worship of this person, we are first and foremost geeks. It does not matter what we got our peerage for, we are geeks. If you're a fighter geek, if you are a service geek, doesn't matter, you're a geek. And one of the most common things about geeks is geeks want to share their geek.
We want to reproduce.
I'm just going to leave that alone. But it's true, because really people want to share what they know. And it's really very...
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, we had another freeze. Okay, give him a second. Give it a second. It will hopefully catch up.
Well, when we're waiting for them to catch up, we know that, like, it's actually kind of funny. Anytime we hit over 100 viewers, we start getting trolls popping in.
I know, it's weird.
Yeah.
We've got 2 so far. I don't know. Have there been any others?
I would like to note that our tech crew nuked them fast.
I know. They nuke them from orbit. It's really cool. Especially our moderator. We should give, like, props to our moderator, Katrina Yarbrough. She is killing it on the moderation
We're
stuff.
back.
And they're back.
You're
Okay,
back.
are we back?
Yep.
Hey!
How much of Joe's fascinating answer did we miss?
Pretty much all of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will just do it again.
Yeah, do it
Again,
again.
here's our geeks. We want to share what we know. So I think the important thing is people should feel free to go up to someone and say, I'm really interested in X. The only caveat I will give is that peer that you just talked to might really be in a desperate rush to get to the bathroom at that very moment that you're talking to them. So if they don't have time for you right then and there, be ready for let me get back to you later, or drop me an email or something like that. But for the most part, I think most of us really want to teach, because it's kind of like oh my God, someone's actually really interested in the thing that I've been researching since AS Dirt, or since Helga was on the throne last. So,
Like last week.
So it's really important, and most importantly in the LCA is about education and about teaching and about learning and about experimenting with our archaeology and making mistakes and learning from the mistakes, all of it. So if people are too afraid to talk about it, ask questions, whatever, then we're not doing what we should be doing. We really need to be more willing to talk about everything, share our information, and share our geek, because what's the point of doing this all if it's just all for you?
Mm-hmm. I can't really add much more than what's Giles and Giuseppe have already said, which is I guess, and I'm seeing this kind of pop up in the comments right now in the live chat on YouTube. Peers are chiming in and saying, like, we want to help, we want to be there for you, but we can't read minds. And while it is really, really hard, I know, and we've talked a little bit about this on previous shows, working up the nerve to approach someone who's probably close to a stranger, but knows something, is like a subject field expert or subject matter expert in whatever field that, you're interested in. And somebody says, oh, well, if you're really interested in like 12th century who's-he what's-its, you gotta go talk to Master Giuseppe. He's the guy you got to talk to, because he knows everything about 12th century who's-he what's-its. And then you're seeing, like, Master Giuseppe and all of his finery, and his, coronet is gleaming in the sun, and he is standing there, of course, striking a pose very, very handsomely. And you might think to yourself, who the fuck am I to like walk up to this dude and be like, hi, so I'm really interested in 12th century who's-he what's-its, and can we talk about it? And he may be thinking to himself as he's striking his glorious pose in the sun, I really need to use the privy right now. And so you walk up to him right as he's about ready to walk to the privy, and you're like, and he's all, not now. Now Giuseppe would never do that. But yeah, it's one of those things where it can take a lot of courage to walk up to someone you barely know who is probably, you know, if they're a peer, physically intimidating in some form or another, and to say like, yeah, I'm really geeked out about this one thing that you know a lot about. Can we talk? But also kind of just not saying it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you, and it doesn't help the peer coming, you know, who wants to share. 99% of the time, like you drop a coin in a peer or a laurel about their art. You drop a coin in a knight about fighting. You drop a coin in a pelican about, you know, service. You drop a coin in a mod about fighting, and you're just like, you're going to be sitting there for a long time as they just are like, oh my god, all of the things are so amazing. so to know that most of us are nerds and just really like barely containing ourselves from just exploding information everywhere, that can help maybe allay some of the fear. We're all nerds here, like for real. Trust me, all nerds. But the other part of it too is, as a peer, you got to be kind of cognizant of body language when you see somebody standing, you know, kind of on the edge, kind of close, but not really in the conversation. And they're kind of just like, you know, they probably are trying to work up the nerve to talk to you. And so even if you're a peer, just break the ice with them. Try to be that bridge into that nerdy conversation. So yeah, I think that would be my answer. Helga?
So I think everything was covered pretty succinctly between the three of you. So I'm just going to add one thing. You can approach a peer without seeking a relationship. I think that a lot of people wait to be ready for a relationship with a peer before they start seeking the knowledge from all the peers out there. You don't have to wait for that. You can seek knowledge from multiple sources and not have to be permanently attached to that source. And just remember that, because that got me over a little bit of my like peer fear and like walking forward and asking for help or asking for training, is understanding that peers want to give you the knowledge without having to be attached to it or attached to you. Like, and so seek the knowledge, understanding that it's freely given very often.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, because you guys covered everything else.
I think the high points are, we want to talk, we want to share. Like, you know, we're all nerds, and various levels of social awkwardness rules apply to us as it does to anyone else. And also, if and I'll say this directly to peers, actually, peers listening. Maybe I don't need to remind anyone, but you know, if if you're in the middle of a thing and somebody comes to you and wants to geek about whatever it is, you know, but now is not the time, be nice to that person. Just be nice and say, guys, you know, now is not the time. Or
Sorry about that.
no worries. But you know, just say something like, you know, I'm really busy right now. I've got to do, you know, I've got to focus on this thing right now, but can you come back to me or tell me where you're camped, and I'll come to you when I'm done with what I'm doing, and we can have that conversation then. Or here's my card. A lot of times I've actually seen peers do this, and I keep meaning to, and I suck at remembering to do this, but they'll have little like business cards that basically have, you know, name, contact info on it, and can hand it over right there and be like, can you just stop cracking up while I'm talking, Helga? I'm watching you lose your shit and I'm trying to be helpful. And it's really, 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 hi.
Yeah, as a Duchess, we have a higher expectation of you as one who should set an example for the rest of us peers. So
I love that Giuseppe just goes to the shame.
I was like, he just mic drops me. I'm just like, fine.
Well, I'm just trying to put out there, though, that, you know, like there are ways to approach this where it's, you know, I really got to run to the bathroom. Like, you have no idea how bad I really have to pee, and I can't use all the words right now, but here's my card. Email me later, you know? So that stuff is, there's ways around all of that, but just be nice. I'd be nice and know that they just want to geek about whatever you want to geek about, and that's fine. All right, done.
Oh, and now we're going to roll the commercial.
And it's commercial.
At the Fairy Tales chest, you can find a large selection of replica historic jewelry from various cultures, including Viking, Baltic, and Slavic. The artist is an immigrant from Ukraine, and as such, her biggest passion is various Slavic temple rings. All jewelry in the shop are reproductions of authentic archaeological findings. You can also find looms and weaving tools, as well as hand-forged sewing needles and complete sewing kit. The proprietor does the band weaving herself, so most models of tools and looms have been personally tested. You can find the Fairy Tales chest on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/thefairytaleschest. Happy shopping! Miscellaneous Etc. makes custom machine embroidery and garb. From patches to horse barding, nothing is too large or too small. How about a heraldic mask or banner? Maybe a new cloak or hood? Livery for your entire household? Badges of office? Miscellaneous Etc. can do it all. You can find them on Facebook at MISC-ETS4, that is MISCETC, and the number 4. Miscellaneous Etc., where imagination meets reality. At the Fairy Tales chest, you can find a large selection of replica historic jewelry from various cultures, including Viking, Baltic, and Slavic. The artist is an immigrant from Ukraine, and as such, her biggest passion is various Slavic temple rings. All jewelry in the shop are reproductions of authentic archaeological findings. You can also find looms and weaving tools, as well as hand-forged sewing needles and complete sewing kit. The proprietor does the band weaving herself, so most models of tools and looms have been personally tested. You can find the Fairy Tales chest on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/thefairytaleschest. Happy shopping! Miscellaneous Etc. makes custom machine embroidery and garb. From patches to horse barding, nothing is too large or too small. How about a heraldic mask or banner? Maybe a new cloak or hood? Livery for your entire household? Badges of office? Miscellaneous Etc. can do it all. You can find them on Facebook at MISC-ETS4, that is MISCETC, and the number 4. Miscellaneous Etc., where imagination meets reality. At the Fairy Tales chest, you can find a large selection of replica historic jewelry from various cultures, including Viking, Baltic, and Slavic. The artist is an immigrant from Ukraine, and as such, her biggest passion is various Slavic temple rings. All jewelry in the shop are reproductions of authentic archaeological findings. You can also find looms and weaving tools, as well as hand-forged sewing needles and complete sewing kit. The proprietor does the band weaving herself, so most models of tools and looms have been personally tested. You can find the Fairy Tales chest on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/thefairytaleschest. Happy shopping! Miscellaneous Etc. makes custom machine embroidery and garb. From patches to horse barding, nothing is too large or too small. How about a heraldic mask or banner? Maybe a new cloak or hood? Livery for your entire household? Badges of office? Miscellaneous Etc. can do it all. You can find them on Facebook at MISC-ETS4, that is MISCETC, and the number 4. Miscellaneous Etc., where imagination meets reality. At the Fairy Tales chest, you can find a large selection of replica historic jewelry from various cultures, including Viking, Baltic, and Slavic. The artist is an immigrant from Ukraine, and as such, her biggest passion is various Slavic temple rings. All jewelry in the shop are reproductions of authentic archaeological findings. You can also find looms and weaving tools, as well as hand-forged sewing needles and complete sewing kit. The proprietor does the band weaving herself, so most models of tools and looms have been personally tested. You can find the Fairy Tales chest.
All right, we're back. Okay.
So sorry about that, guys. We had one of us drop behind the scenes, and so thank you for everybody for hanging on and waiting for the show to restart. It means a lot.
Okay, well, shall we go to the next question?
Sure.
Let's
All
rock
right,
it.
guys, this is really, really serious. Like, just prepare yourself. This is from Christelle. What is something you can say in court and during sex? Presumably not at the same time.
Couldn't hear you.
Oh, damn. What is something you can say in court and during sex? Presumably not at the same time.
This is taking way too long.
Well done, you. I got nothing. I'm not clever. I got nothing.
He says that in court too.
Exactly.
Just fucking mic drop on that
I know,
one.
I love that.
It
was too easy.
Dead to me.
Oh, I got one. Go ahead.
I mean, the easy one would be, to say, huzzah. I mean, oh man, this one actually totally caught me off guard. Say yours. I have a feeling we're gonna do a couple rounds of this one.
Yeah, but you chose this question.
I know. I should have thought it out better.
Mine would be shh. Quiet, you.
How many people do you need in a procession?
Oh God, I popped a seam. Okay.
I mean, was that an answer to the question, or did you actually pop a seam?
No, I actually popped a seam. I coughed and it went. And I'm like, yeah, that's not something you would normally say in court. Hopefully not.
Can I do something to pop your seam?
Yes, Giuseppe, you did.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of other ones. There's 3 cheers, for a good finish. You deserve this honor.
Maybe it looked better in the pictures.
May this be the last blow that you
receive unanswered.
It counts as a
that's
68, not a 69.
Somebody in the chat said kneel before their majesties. I thought that's pretty good.
Also, all rise came up in the chat. That was another good one.
Right. Let's see.
If there are any who think this person unworthy, let them pick up this glove.
Oh my God. This is a good one. I think this might just have to be the Monday question.
Yeah, this might have to be the Monday question of like, we're just gonna go rounds on this one.
I like the commands too. Kneel. Those are good.
Use the pillows.
Yeah, there we go. Use the pillows.
In Caid, it would be use the pillows.
Yeah, no, your knees go here. Yeah. Ooh. Was your mic hot for that, Baby Ninja? Okay, Baby Ninja just piped in with, you came here wearing that. So, with that, shall we roll to the next one, or do we want to keep coming up with bad ones? Okay, so the next question, which is the first bonus question of the evening, comes from Lux. If you could only have sex in one position for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
You take that one.
Golly, I'm going to go with
in whatever position my husband tells me to.
that.
That's cheating. That's a total cheating out. You gotta give a real
It was a bonus question. There are no rules.
There's totally rules.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's rules. touch
Yeah, in the West.
rules. I think that's valid. I mean, like whatever your partner's into, it's like the God,
Whatever
no.
the partner committee decides.
It is a committee. Nobody's happy. Everybody's all about compromise.
Okay,
No, that's your only time. Like, it's only compromise if it's a bunch of switches talking, and then nobody's actually going to make the decision.
all right. My position will be missionary because I love watching people's eyes as they realize that an object too large for its surroundings will in fact fit in. Was that too much?
No.
No, that was
That is exactly the content people tune in for.
yeah, exactly. That was on point.
I love how Giuseppe's just like,
I've appeared on the Royal Face Palm page a few times because I don't have much of a poker face, and by not much I mean absolutely none.
So mine, I actually would have to be like missionary. I'm honestly, it's just a solid. It's a solid position. Like,
Solid is good.
It is. Everybody gets to gaze into each other's eyes, and there's like a lot of like nice friction, and it's
You
pleasant.
seem to be a firm agreement.
Yeah, great. Firm agreement.
I feel like this is a bonding moment.
Yeah. Well, Giuseppe and I have done all sorts of really ridiculous shit in the past, so just one more level to our friendship. Although I will say that I'm looking at the chat, and my intrepid boyfriend has just chimed in and said the one where we can both watch X-Files, and I'm like, he never watches X-Files. I'm the one who wants to watch X-Files. And not having sex during X-Files, that's weird. Although he's a
I need
big.
you to thank him for getting that song jammed in my head now.
Which one? Which song? David Duchovny, Why Don't You Love Me? That's my song.
I got to emphasize, it's far less important which position and far more important to realize tent walls are not walls.
Thank you. And that goes back to the previous.
Shadow puppets are real.
I mean, unless you really like performing for an audience, in which case, at least make sure you're.
You get a performance laurel for that. Shadow puppetry?
I mean, a performance laurel for shadow puppetry, like that's got to be some good performances.
Or is it a pelican thing because it's a service?
It depends. Are you on the bottom and you are no longer the shadow puppet?
Or is it a night thing, in which case we have to worry about the thrusting tip?
I'm good. I got that covered.
All right, Helga, what's your answer?
It's totally being on top. So not reverse cowgirl, but cowgirl, because then like boobs are still in play. I can totally like either be slightly like I can be a little switchy and be like, yep, you're driving the bus from down there, or I can be dominant as fuck and be like, I can choke you out a little bit while riding you. Like there's so many more options. Like there's just also I'm in control there. Like I can set the pace. Like Jesus Christ, most guys have no timing out there. Like seriously, guys, learn timing, learn half timing. It will help your sex lives and teach you how to fuck better.
Yeah, so, I had a boyfriend.
Speaking of sex positions, have you ever looked at late period fencing manuscripts, which usually are naked, and it's like, I'm sorry, I've seen The Joy of Gay Sex, and I've seen late period manuscripts of fencing, and they're the same thing.
Oh yeah. One just has an extra thrusty in it.
I'm not going to say which one.
Well, I mean, it depends. Like when you're getting in later, later into either of those manuals, there are multiple thrusting tips in most of them, and so
legit. What? I study.
I was about to say, like, isn't that the game? It's like you're supposed, like, the three of you are laurels. You should be way more educated in this than me.
Wait, back up a second. I have a master's degree in an area of art history that deals with pornography in the 18th century. So I can go back as far as the 16th century with a lot of forms of pornography. We can absolutely have that conversation academically. Just right now, I am not prepared for that.
Julia, you just opened the door for someone to get a sex laurel.
I mean,
I'm down.
If you're down, it's not going to work.
completely
Fair point.
honestly,
I
I have seen some research touch on those things.
It's for science.
Yeah. So
All right, next question.
Next question before the one-liners start falling out of my face because it's gonna get bad. Like,
what's falling out of your face this time?
well, nothing right now because apparently I can still swallow.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Ah,
All right. So the next question, this is specifically for Giles. And it's anonymous, apparently, too. So did you know your husband has a crush on Oz?
yes, I am aware that my husband has a crush on Count Oz. I'm also aware that my husband has a crush on Duke Hansa. And he has a crush on Duke Athanric. And I think he may have a wee little thing for Duke Guillaume. And I'm sure there's any number of other accomplished gentlemen.
Don't you love our Bartman jug? It's isn't it?
Okay, so I've got the follow-up question to this because now we're just riffing off this. I need you to rate his crushes of like, where do these men fall on the rating scale? Like, if you line them all up and he had access to all of them, but he could only choose one.
It's a sliding scale, and it's based mostly on physical proximity.
It's so true. I love you, Giuseppe, so hard.
Yeah, now I just want to get like all those guys in the same location, like standing around him in a circle.
Wait,
and
you've
watch
not
what-
seen
It's
this?
called West Ontario War usually.
Exactly. I'm like, where have you been at a West Ontario war where you have not watched Giuseppe's head spin?
Oh no, I've been there. I also paid him 5 rain coins to at velocity rub his face across Hans's ass at a feast.
Is this when I was queen? Is this a when I was queen?
No, I didn't say that. No, did I?
Said rain coins, so
I didn't.
Honey, defend my
said
honor.
rain coins, dude.
And in all fairness, when it comes to Oz, he does have those gorgeous eyes, but most importantly, those pretty words come from a pretty mouth.
You got a pretty mouth.
He is the only king I know of that I was having a what do you call these newfangled things with like video and like we were video conferencing and I was sewing heading up the sewing committee for his reign and had specific details I had to have about his measurements and things. And he's like, I'm going to the shower. I'm like, I don't care. And he brought the phone in the shower with him, and we're chatting as he's like, really, I'm in the shower. Want to see? And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, that's a lot of measurement that I didn't expect.
Oh, the good old inseam measurement.
So I got a weird follow-up, or not a weird follow-up question, but a follow-up statement that ends in a question mark that I think all 4 of us need to answer. Does tied to the bed categorically count as missionary?
Does what?
Does tied to the bed categorically count as missionary?
It depends on which position you are tied in.
I'm guessing on your back and like arms and legs tied. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that qualifies.
I mean, technically, when we go to war, we have a 4-poster bed, and research. We're liberals. We are into research. We need to research this.
Mhm.
We will report the studies right after we see how this publication on 14th century shields.
That's right. That sounds like a really good bribe.
Okay, wait, hang on. Is this a real threat? Because if this is a real threat, you are 100% making that publication because I will throw down to make sure that you do that.
Here's the thing. This is how you get Helga to do this.
Yeah.
You engage the competition button.
Yeah, that's actually kind of how you get me to do anything is like pretty much if you challenge me to it, I'm going to be like, well, I'm either going to fuck you up or get myself fucked up in the process.
I would, but I don't think you got what it takes to do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm hearing a lot of this when we all know you should be doing this.
It's on.
This is me. I'm just gonna be over here with my cocktail, like.
You can be the judge.
I'm with you, Julia.
Yeah, it'll be me and Giles. We'll just be hanging out, being like, "All right, cocktails. What are these dinguses up to?"
Oh, so we can have Hans deliver cocktails in just leather pants.
You could do that too. Yeah, you know, we always could use a cabana boy or 2, 3.
And a Duke.
I
I'd say it's my favorite when it comes to unsolicited Duke picks.
Duke picks.
What did you think I said? Yes, Duke picks.
No, I just love that. It's good.
Duke picks are a thing.
Duke picks.
Which reminds me, I need to get you more.
All right, next question.
Well, I actually have a question that was submitted. Let's see, I gotta go bring it up. Okay, so Baron Aaron from Ontier says, question to all, what are your thoughts on expanding the timeline up to 1699 to allow more primary access to historical places and artifacts here in America?
Sorry, I didn't.
I heard it.
Okay.
Well, I'm sort of torn because, of course, back when I joined, I think that should be a thing. You know, we had so much that we hadn't even covered yet, and there were people wanting to push the border. And while I'm all for people wanting to learn and study what they want, there also comes a point where it's like it's too much. And you know, we have Regency groups that focus on Regency. We have American Civil War. We have English Civil War. We have a lot of groups that really micro-focus. And then there's the SCA that's kind of like a free-for-all of do whatever you want. And then we just massively expanded it beyond that. And well, for me personally, it's not going to change my game because I'm interested in what I'm interested in. I'm going to do the things I want to do. And, you know, no one else's pursuits are going to affect that. Part of me says, maybe for today, it's a little bit too much because we've got too much change going on. And a lot of us, you know, for me, I'm like trying to keep up with all the change. And I don't know if we can do too much at one time. I mean, I've been involved a lot of times in the big fight about 1600, 1650, 1600, 1650, going beyond that and expanding it over here and that. Will it hurt my game? Well, no, I'm still going to do what I do. And I'm still going to always encourage people to, you know, go and do what you want to do, find your geek, find your rabbit holes and do that. I also have to think in terms of a Laurel, which I think is the only peerage that is impacted by these expansions, really in that we suddenly have to judge things we never heard of before. And are supposed to be experts and be able to help people. And it's like, that's a lot of pressure for something we didn't get to decide. So maybe not today, but I'm absolutely open to the concept and the conversation. If there's enough people that want to do it, then I think that's important. How about you?
I think people should do what brings them joy. I think that having companions in your search for joy is a very good thing. But when I joined the SCA, I was interested in 16th century England. And that's what I'm interested in today. And if there's somebody who wants to go to 16th century England with me, I'm thrilled to have them join me, but I'm really not interested in going anyplace else.
Yeah. Helga?
I'm actually, this is gonna kind of sound like relatively mellow. I'm actually really not pro just adding more and more. So it's gonna be kind of the same thing that you guys have all said of just like we're going through a lot of other change right now. We need to have some stability.
Yes.
And the stability right now is our timeline. And we have so much to still explore in there. And I think that by creating a better and more open and welcoming environment, we are going to recruit way more than opening the timeline. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my take on it.
I when Aaron actually posted this in the chat an hour ago or whatever, I was like, you want a soapbox? This is a soapbox. But you know, I really feel like we've kind of eloquently punched the correct, like where I feel my, and when I said correct, I meant in my feeling, where it's not going to impact my game if we expand the timeline, and we make a hard cutoff date at 1699. It's really not going to totally alter the way I pursue what I'm interested in the SCA. Also, what Helga said, we've also got a lot of shit we need to fix right now before we even entertain pushing something like that, which would be a real adjustment. Probably, I mean, honestly, if you want to see more people get pissy about a thing, just suggest expanding the timeline past 1650. And I'm pretty sure you're going to see a lot of people just being like blowing their lids about it. Because, and here's where I am on this spectrum. So I'm an actual scholar of 17th and 18th century clothing, essentially, or material history, essentially. And in that, having to get this fancy master's degree in this fancy area of study, I had to do a lot of studying about the underlying philosophical movements that kind of underpin these 1699, 1650. I mean, like, really, you're pushing it at 1650. It is the age of enlightenment. It is a fundamental shift in culture, and I'm gonna be Western culture. Yeah, you can say I'm being very narrow-minded about it. Yes, I am. But again, that's what I got my master's degree in. And the SCA has a primacy of the chivalric, the age of chivalry. When you get into the age of enlightenment, it feels less different. It feels less foreign. It feels less, like like you're going to another place, like you're taking yourself out of this world that you live in and going to another time. I'm really not being eloquent about it because I've had like a couple of cocktails now. But this is something I could actually speak very lengthily on. That's a word. But the Age of Enlightenment is what we are in Western culture. The underpinning of what we are today is built on that. I've done reenactment, 18th century reenactment. I've done 17th century reenactment. There's just so many technological advances that are not that different from what we have today. There are so many philosophical advancements at this point that just don't feel that different. And I want to go to the SCA to experience something different. And we push it too far, it's going to be not quite what it does. It loses the difference for me. Because I feel like, you could drop me into the court of Marie Antoinette and I already know enough as a 21st century human being. I could probably get by. You drop me into the court of Charles II of England, I could for sure get by. That's like 1660s, 1660s.
I could see easily 17th century being its own very successful, very cool reenactment thing in and of itself, just that 100 years.
And that is.
And I know that for a lot of the things that I have studied, and that's costuming, that's cooking, that's dance, I'm an ADD, Laurel. It's like, it's almost like all the information we have, from 0 to 1600, we have almost the same amount of information from 1600 to 1699, just because of the fickle nature of history and preservation and all the things that have happened. So
there's the
a lot of challenge we've had in the SCA.
Right. And the old timers I've talked to, the people that were, active within like the first 5 to 10 years of the SCA, when these questions about like where the cutoff date was going to be, they really, from what I've understood from conversations with these individuals, is that the cutoff date was always supposed to be like, the end of the age of chivalry, which is really predates the 16th century. And that's my jam, is the 16th century. But we had a lot of people that were doing Ren Fair that were like, yeah, but I got all this garb, And so it was pushed out further. And then there were people coming in from the, I just really want to do Cavalier, and Cavalier is, 1650-ish. So they pushed it out even further, especially when the Three Musketeers and Four Musketeers movies came out in the 70s. You know, that was a big push for that. And so it got pushed far, but it never got a hard cutoff. But it was always kind of an understood thing. And in my mind, I was very much like, well, it makes sense to cut it off at the death of Elizabeth I. It just is a kind of an ideological, like cultural, bam, okay, let's just cut it off at 1603. Let's call it good. We're no longer in this like vaguely chivalric world. We're into the age of science. We're into the age of discovery. We're into the age of, you know, enlightenment, into all of these other things that become very much the underpinnings of the world we live in now. And so, yeah, like that, this is my really awkward fucking soapbox, but it's my soapbox. I really don't think we should push it to 1699. I think 1650 makes a lot of sense. I can jam with that, even though it's pushing it, but I think 1603, that makes sense to me. So.
Well, and with that, we're actually at time. And so I'm going to wrap this up right now and say I want to say thank you guys very much for joining us on the show. It has been an absolute delight. I hope that you guys have had fun. Does anybody have anything before we finish this up?
I have one thing I would like to observe. I've been in the SCA for a long time. I've seen us adapt and change and retool and deal with whatever we've had to deal with in a huge variety of environments. But I have to say that what we are experiencing now with this outburst of online activity and teaching and playing and singing and entertaining and having talk shows, this is brilliant. I am so impressed with what you all are doing. Thank you for giving the SCA the gift of your time. And to the technical support team, thank you for giving us the benefit of your expertise. This is remarkable. I'm so glad I got a chance to play.
I'm glad you guys accepted.
To echo the Giles, also want to thank all the techies here and our lovely hostesses. And Julia, I'm so glad you have decided to embrace late period again. 100% give up all that earlier stuff to embrace your true roots. And dear Helga, I am so happy you were just cast to play Lana in the live version of Archer. That is magnificent and the best typecasting I think I've ever seen. Congratulations.
Oh my God.
Oh, man, I wish I had that body.
Yes,
Whew.
right?
What'd you do with it?
Everybody.
Okay, so one, I would probably totally sell myself on the internet if I had a body like that. Like, OnlyFans, here I come, right there. Like, fuck that. Like, I'm making bucks.
Wow, your hands are big.
My hands are big.
You have to say, big hands.
Yeah.
He does not have big hands. They're normal sized. They're proportional.
I have big hands, which means every dude's cock feels a little bit small in them.
Guess what? I have little hands.
We're opposite spectrums. I'm the one that knocks them down a peg, you bring them up a peg, and it's all just done with our hands.
Oh my God, I'll never forget, like, my one of my first real grown-up jobs. I was a fashion design instructor, and one of my colleagues, we were just sitting around talking in between classes, and she grabs my hand and she's just like, you know, touching my hands, and she's like, oh, boys must like you.
Not creepy at all. No, not creepy at all.
Bubble. What? And then I went,
Thanks.
oh. Yeah, you know.
And on that note,
we're gonna go with. Do you have any shows you wish to do a shout out to?
I actually can I just say one thing before, like, can I just say one thing? I hate when.
can we stop you?
Yeah, you can't. It's, you know. I want
Their show.
to thank our guests, Giles, Giuseppe. You guys have been, you know, great friends of mine, and I'm speaking on Helga's behalf as well, for many, many years, and very, very much we wanted to get you guys on the show because I think you guys, you know, we thought you guys would be
Thank you.
really fun to talk to and have a lot of really interesting things to talk about, and you proved us right. So.
It's nice to be in garb again.
I know, right? We're giving you an excuse. So also, Giuseppe, no, you can pry my Slavics out of my cold, dead hands. They are so much more comfortable than this bullshit. But we can have as many catty little conversations as you want about it.
I'll have to learn how to be catty, but I will make an endeavor.
Ah,
Oh, that's so catty. God. That was catty as fuck. Anyway, I love you guys and thank you so much.
love you too. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Oh no,
Oh,
not
it's
yet.
it's not by yet. We got shout outs next. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
so do you guys want to give a shout out to another show, other content, an event coming up?
Ooh, I got one that I only recently discovered and have been geeking out and fanboying over ever since. He's not on the SCA yet. Yeah, I have to stress this. But my new friend Max Miller has this amazing YouTube show that he's put together called Tasting History. And if you haven't seen it, you need to, because oh my God, how he hadn't been in the SCA before, I don't know. But he got inspired by the Great British Baking Show, as we all do, and was really loving the history content of it. And said, when the last season ended and went like the rest of us, I'm depressed now. Wanted more history in cooking and decided to put his own show together. So it's brilliant. And he has the most fantastic personality. It really comes across, and it's very well researched, very well edited, beautiful show, Tasting History. Look it up. I love it.
Make sure to send us that link and we will post it in the YouTube comments and we'll post it on the Between Two Peers Facebook page.
Yeah. Giles, do you have anything you want to promote or?
I just finished rereading the October Day series, which is a lovely kind of urban elven fantasy thing set in the Bay Area. Loved it. I don't have any shows to recommend.
I get it. I'm not a big, YouTube show watcher, unfortunately. Helga?
So my content shout out is going to go to Outlands Royal Tea this evening. I know I gave them a shout out a couple weeks ago, but they've now got their content all set until the end of January. It is a great opportunity to learn about the history of the Outlands through the eyes of the royals that helped create the kingdom. And so check that out. We'll make sure to post a link in the comments.
I want to add two things. One, Saga Saturday is coming back. I just saw our damn Kenhild posted in our comments and said Saga Saturday is coming back, so you guys should definitely tune in. The lineup changes a little bit, but it's always really good no matter what. And they were on kind of a hiatus for about a month or so, but so definitely it's on Saturdays because it's called Saga Saturday. And the other thing I was going to do is plug our sister show, Ask the Knights, live, because every single time I fail to do so, Logan just has like a little pout and I feel bad. So you should always tune in to Ask the Knights live. And he's always got really interesting people coming on and talking about interesting things. It's one of my favorite shows. Actually, as a non-fighter, I do tune in every week. So you should too.
Well, and with that, I'm going to wrap up the show. I'm going to say thank you all very much for showing up. We're here because the audience continues to watch us and send in questions. So please feel free to send us feedback, send us questions, hang out on the Discord, which is already in the links, and chat with us during the week. So remember to like, share, and follow. Pimp us out to your friends. Followers keep us going. So thank you all very, very much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
This your face is, I won't go 6 feet.